Good morning, everyone. I welcome you back to the fifth day of our short-term course on research methodology in sciences. We are privileged to have Dr. Akhtar Parvez with us today. He'll be speaking on plagiarism. Dr. Akhtar Parvez is the librarian at Mano, the chief librarian, and he's the nodal officer for the departments and 12 satellite campuses of Mano. Dr. Parvez got his PhD from Delhi University after having obtained his degrees in library sciences, bachelor's and master's from Jamia Millia. He has a vast experience of over 32 years, and he has worked both in government and private sectors. Some of the institutions, prestigious centers where he has worked are the National Council for Applied Economics Research, the American Center, USIS New Delhi, Delnet, India International Center, ICRA, and Indian Institute of Management, Indore. Dr. Parvez has authored and edited 10 books and contributed 20 papers in journals and books, and has delivered more than 200 invited lectures on various issues to sciences, plagiarism, and how to check for various things, all related to library and information services. So I would not be between you and Dr. Parvez, and I request Dr. Parvez to take over. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the generous introduction. And, it's always a pleasure to speak in any of your programs, including which you conducted in your department. So I'm very thankful to you for that, sir. So as sir has said, I'll be speaking on plagiarism, and I have named it as ethics in writing and academic misconduct. So let me just minimize this particular thing. Yeah. So a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The things which I'm going to cover in this will be in brief the concept of ethics in academic writing, and then of course I'm sure somebody must have taken the paper on how you can write good papers. So I'll be telling you some of the challenges that we generally face in research writing. What are the ethics in academic writing? What is reference? What is citation? And I will also be discussing the UGC regulation of 2018 on anti-plagiarism, and what are different ways of avoiding plagiarism, because that is what is more important. And then apart from this, we'll also try to understand how we can exclude similarity, because all similarity is not plagiarism. So all these things we will try to address, and I'm sure you will note down the questions and you will ask me towards the end of this, and I'll close my session at 11:15, so that we have 15 minutes for question answer. So what is ethics, which has been defined in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary? It is the discipline dealing with what is good and bad and with moral duty and obligation. A set of moral principles, a theory or system of moral values, a set of moral issues or aspects such as rightness. So rightness is the thing that, what is required in academics. And in particular, so what we are discussing is academic writing. So, academic writing has not been defined together in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, but, academic and writing has been defined. So I'll not go into the details of this. And the definition of research, as you all know, it is to search or investigate exhaustively. Research is a careful, detailed, and systematic study in a specific problem, concern, or issue using scientific methods. So here, scientific method is very, very important. And since this program, this short-term course for you is on research methodology, I'm very sure all these scientific methods must have been discussed or taught. So the purpose of any academic writing is, of course, to fill the knowledge gap. Okay, what exists, to disseminate research results or knowledge by publishing in journals, etc. So that is the broad. These are the broad purposes of any academic writing. And the challenges that we face today is, one is, of course, how to write papers. What are the research tools? And of course, what are the ethics as set in writing, plagiarism and other issues? And then, of course, selecting the right journal. So these are some of the broad challenges that one faces while doing any research. So research paper writing is, not very, I would say, easy. It requires a lot of effort at your end, a lot of focus at your end. And there is one, research which was done by Elsevier, where they said that 1.2 million researchers began their career, okay, and out of this 1.2 million, only 35% stay for more than 5 years. And out of this 35%, only half of them actually complete their career in research. So which means practically that, just 16 to 17% of the people are able to actually complete their career in research. So you can understand, the percentage of the researchers, or I would say serious researchers, who are able to actually complete their career in research. So I'll just run a video for about 3-4 minutes, which actually tells you in nutshell what all research is all about and what are the issues that one has to understand. So hope you like this video. So what actually message that we get from this video is that, it says despite you do a lot of work, still you find that there are 50% chances of rejection. But at the same time, there have been various other researchers which say that rejection is exception, and acceptance is the norm. And that happens, generally in journals which are of low quality, or you can say which are predatory journals. And this video also suggests that more and more people are working together. And as per this research, 96% of the papers had joint authors. And since you all are from sciences backgrounds, you must have seen in one of the slides where it says one of the physics paper had more than 3000 authors. So you can understand, the importance of collaboration. And of course, collaboration, especially in sciences, is very, very important. So I will skip few things because probably I would want to focus more on ethics part. So I'll skip some of the. But what I want to tell you here is that it is very important that that we properly cite and give proper references. And for for understanding, or for knowing which paper has better citations, probably there are 2 3 databases which can always refer to. One is Scopus and the other is Web of Science, where and these two databases are databases of citations and abstract, which actually give you complete detail of the citation a particular paper gets. And also, it tells you the impact factor. So I'm sure you all may be aware of what impact factor is, but still let me tell you in brief what impact factor is. So if I want to, check the impact factor of 2020, I will not be able to do it because 2020 is still running. So if I want impact factor of a particular journal of say 2019, so what I will do, I'll add up all the citation which the paper has received in the previous 2 years, that is 2016 and 2017 and 2018, and I'll divide that by number of articles published in that particular journals. So this is how we get impact factor of any particular journal. And this this impact factor you will find on various websites also, and also in these databases. But sometimes uh, uh, the impact factor may be little misleading, and the factor of misleading is generally in journals which are low quality journals, or which are deceptive or fake journals. So it is, what I was actually trying to tell you is that it is very, very important that we always give citations and references. And we should also always make sure that we refer to credible sources of information. Now, like for example, I still see that some of uh, our friends, they use Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, in my opinion, is not a credible source because it is open access Wikipedia, where people can contribute, and you generally have sometimes no control over what people are contributing. So it is not a right thing, to give or cite a source which is not credible. So it is very, very important for all of us to try to cite primary sources of information. So, for example, if it is data about say foreign trade, or say number of say foreign trade, then instead of going to any particular website, I can always go to Directorate General of Foreign Trade, which is a Government of India department. So from there you can get this information. Similarly, if you want financial data, uh, then probably Bombay Stock Exchange or National Stock Exchange is a better place to get this. So it is important that we always try to get information from primary sources of information to the extent possible. There of course will be cases where it is not possible to just get data from primary sources. So if you are taking it from secondary sources, that is also not a problem, provided those resources are credible sources of information. And we should always cite as we write. I mean, we should not wait till the end that once we finish our paper then we'll start citing, because then there will be problem. You may miss out on some of these citations, and you may also miss out on uh, you know uh, uh, that you will not be able to match all the references with the citation. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a possibility that the number of citation will be, say for example, 10, and the references will be either 9, 8, or maybe more. So I think that is why it becomes very, very important for all of us to cite as we write. So I'll just skip few of the things again. Yes, this is a website called Cable's website. Uh, Here, you can find out which are fake journals or which are predatory publications or predatory publishers. But this is a paid website, so I would suggest that maybe there are other websites like this. There's one website where you get Dolo's list, where here you get all the details of all the publishers which are low quality publishers or fake, and these are the journals, list of journals where you will get all these details. Similarly, there is another website called predatorjournals.com, where you get again list of all these low quality journals, and there are about more than 1300 titles in this. And the good thing about this website is that you can also contribute, which means that you can tell the website that these are the journals or publishers which you find as of low quality. So after necessary checks, they may include in on this particular website. So my suggestion to you is that there is a very good document on Committee on Publishing Ethics website, where you will know everything about predatory publishing. And of course there are other things also, other resources also, which you get. So there there's a paper which I always cite. The title is The Rise and Rise of Citation Analysis, which says that 90% of papers that have been published in academic journals are never cited. And it also says that as many as 50% of papers are never read by anyone other than their authors, referees, and journal editors. So, what is the point of writing, if nobody is actually reading your paper or nobody is citing from your papers? So, which says actually that, we should always try to write meaningful papers. And once we write, we also should publicize on various websites, because if we don't publicize, possibly we'll not be able to get proper citations or recognition of our papers. So these are some of the websites, like ResearchGate, Academia, even mainly, these are some of the websites where you can give information about your papers. And I always say that it is very important to have your own identity as a research scholar. Like we have Aadhaar. There are a lot of applications where you can go and register yourself as a researcher. One is Orchid. So you can go to this website and give all your details, then the research ID of Thomson Reuters, then Google Scholar ID. So why I'm saying this, because this helps publisher to understand your identity. Sometimes what happens, if for example I have say contributed 15-20 papers, my name is Akhtar Parvez, so there's a possibility that at some place my name will be A Parvez, somewhere it is Akhtar Parvez. So uh, 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 these databases like Scoopers or Web of Science probably will not be able to give right information about my papers. So if I have that ORCID ID, which I should use in all, when I send papers, I should send my ID also, so that it becomes easier for others to read, to know what all papers I have written. So of course, quality is one thing which should always focus, but the culture in India is that we focus more on quantity, unfortunately. So now we will start discussing about the ethics. So as I said, it is what is wrong, what is right. We have to have clear understanding in the context of academic writing. So the general problem that we see is plagiarism in our papers. So people simply, copy paste from other sources without realizing that there will be consequences later on. So just to give you a brief definition of plagiarism, It is the act of using another person's words or ideas without giving credit to that person. Okay, so that is the basic definition of plagiarism. The other definition which Merriam-Webster's dictionary has defined is to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as one's own, using another's production without crediting the source. And this the plagiarism has been equated with literary theft. So you can understand the seriousness of this term, which has been equated by various dictionaries as academic or say literary theft. So plagiarism is cheating and academic dishonesty, and plagiarism is one of the most common types of unethical practices or publication misconduct, where an author deliberately uses another's work without permission, credit, or acknowledgement. Okay, so that is the uh, these are some of the definition. And also, plagiarism is an act of fraud. Involves both stealing someone else's work and lying about it afterwards. It's not that, I'm stealing it. Say if I steal something today, and if I, keep using that paper for my cash, for my other recruitments, etc., or for grants, etc. So, which means that, not only I am stealing, but I'm lying about it all my life. And words and thoughts can also be plagiarized. So plagiarism takes different forms, from literal copying to paraphrasing someone else's work. Plagiarism can happen even accidentally. So since plagiarism can happen accidentally also, we have to be more careful. So if we don't cite, say if we forget to cite, then there's a problem. Okay, maybe our intention is not to plagiarize or copy someone else's work without giving credit, but because I forget to cite source, it becomes plagiarism. So we have to be very, very careful, and that is why unintentional plagiarism sometimes are more dangerous, because there the chances of getting it caught is are higher. So drawing, statistics, music can also be plagiarized, and I'm sure you must have seen various cases in the past. You all know, Anu Malik has been, accused of having plagiarized many times in the past. So whether you are taking the text as it is from any source, or even paraphrasing or rephrasing the text, you always have to ensure that you cite the original source. So that is very, very important. But having said that, some of the information or knowledge is called common knowledge, which is not required to be cited. So, for example, I say the current Prime Minister of India is Narendra Modi. Then, there is election in United States for presidentship. Rainfall from clouds. All these things are, common knowledge. But if I am quoting that so much rain has been witnessed in Hyderabad or any other city, I must mention the source from where I got that information. And why it is important: one, because of course you are not accused of having plagiarized, number one, and second is that it brings more credibility to your documents. So it's important that we always uh, cite whenever we write any paper, except the information or knowledge which is common. So UGC defines this as: common knowledge means a well-known fact, code, figure, or information that is known to most of the people. Okay, so that is the definition UGC has given. So these are some of the examples of plagiarism. Show someone else's work as your own, copying words or ideas from someone else's work without giving credit, giving incorrect information about the source, making it impossible to find the source, buying, stealing, or borrowing assignments, experiments, results, etc., using ideas of someone else without crediting the originator, reusing an existing published paper in a different journal, including translated articles. So sometimes what happens that we publish an article, which is probably published in Urdu or Hindi, and I want to publish it in English. So it is important for me as the author of that paper that I disclose this information to the publisher, that this paper has already been published in some other language, and I want to get it published in some other language. So then, copying, reproducing in part or whole one's own published work without giving proper reference to the work. So this, I'm sure you all know, there was a circular also of the UGC in the recent past about self-plagiarism. So this, just a second, please, just a second. Sorry. So there was circular by the UGC where they have discussed this thing, for this particular thing, that is self-plagiarism. So even if we are writing a paper which and I'm taking a lot of things from my previous paper, so it is important for me, or rather it is obligatory for me to cite whatever I'm taking from my own previous paper. And then the other example, as I already said, was that paraphrasing existing text of others and present it as yours. So even if you paraphrasing, it is, so there are two kinds of things which we do when we cite in our research papers. One is we take things as it is, okay, that is, and we have to give those things in double quotes. And the other is that we paraphrase. So there we don't need to give it in double quotes, but in both the cases we need to cite the source. So it's not that if I'm paraphrasing, I don't need to cite the source. And I will be discussing on citation and references little later in detail. Then using or copying so many words or ideas from another source that it makes up the majority of your research work. So, and you don't have anything new to give. So that is also plagiarism. Or asking someone else to write for you. So this, I'm sure you must have you already know that there are a lot of agencies which say we'll write for you, and a lot of theses in the past were written by some of the universities. So I think that is also one of the examples of plagiarism. And most of the cases of plagiarism can be avoided by citing of relevant sources. So that is very, very important. And I will just tell you some of the cases of plagiarism that have happened in the past. There was of course there are a lot of heads of institutions like vice chancellor of universities, directors of ISER, IIMs, and so many institutions where they were accused of having plagiarized. And in most of the cases what we saw is that uh, when they became vice chancellors or directors, people started checking their papers and seeing that if there is any plagiarism or any academic misconduct. So as long as we are nobody, people generally don't bother about us. But if we go to higher position, so there the problem is I mean, people start worrying more about us. So and there was a paper in the Springer which was withdrawn after 14 years because of the allegation of plagiarism. So you can imagine, if a paper can be withdrawn from a publisher's website after 14 years, so which means the plagiarism can be caught anytime. It's not that, you see, if it is not caught today, it will never be caught. So now let me just briefly discuss about the UGC promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher education institutions regulation of 2018. So I suggest that you must read this regulation uh, at least 2-3 times to have complete clarity on this regulation, and especially various definition which has been given. So what this regulation is basically applies to all students, faculty, researchers, and staff of all higher education institutions, irrespective of the fact whether the faculty or staff is temporary, or whether he or she is guest teacher, whether it is ad hoc, visiting, temporary. So all kinds of teachers are covered in this. Sorry, all kinds of staff are covered in this, and also all students are covered in this particular regulation. So the objectives of this regulation, is to create awareness about responsible conduct of research in the institution, in the context of various publications, including thesis, dissertation, etc. So the objective is to create awareness, and the other objective is to establish a proper mechanism in the university itself or wherever you are working, wherein you have proper systems of checking of similarity of dissertations, theses, research papers, etc. So these are some I mean, there are, of course, a lot of other objectives also, which you may read in the regulation, but these I thought were little important for all of us, so I included in this presentation. And the clause 7 of the UGC regulation, under note section, it says that the research work carried out by the student, faculty, researcher, and staff shall be based on original ideas, which shall include abstracts, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, conclusions, and recommendations. And these things, shall not have any similarities, right? So these things, but at the same time, there are certain exclusion in this also. It says, the note also says that it shall exclude common knowledge or coincidental terms up to 14 consecutive words. Okay, so these two things are given in this particular section. And apart from this, there are other exclusions also. It is extremely important for all of us to understand the exclusion, because what I find and what I found in my previous organization also, that people think that all similarity is plagiarism. It's not like that, and hence it becomes uh, important for us to have complete clarity on the exclusion. Say, for example, if you come to the library and if you want to run a particular paper for plagiarism, so what I will do is I will, of course, check and give you the similarity. I will not give you the plagiarism report. I'll give you the similarity report. Now, then you will have to actually see whether all that similarity is plagiarism or there are only similarities. So, what are the exclusions? That is very important for us to understand. Only then we will be able to make a distinction between plagiarism and similarity. So apart from the previous thing what we said, that common knowledge and 14 consecutive words, there are other exclusions also, which include all quoted work reproduced with all necessary permissions and or attributions. So which means that wherever you have given citation and references, that will not be considered as plagiarism, number one. Then the other exclusion is all references, bibliography, table of content, preface, and acknowledgements. That is another thing. The last and the most important thing is that all generic terms, laws, standard symbols, and standard equations. In sciences papers, we generally see that there are a lot of equations or symbols. So those will be excluded. Those things are not or will not be considered as plagiarism. And then, for example, I thought I'll just tell you by one example the difference between similarity and plagiarism. This is a screenshot of Turnitin report of one of the papers on RTI, where it is showing that the similarity is 37%. And then on the right hand side, it gives complete breakup of the similarity. So for example, 7% is from this source, then 6% from this particular source. So I can always go on this source to check what one has taken from that particular source. And then, from this particular page, when you go to Turnitin software, you will have to actually manually exclude some of the things which are not plagiarism, which are simply similarities. And there are other options also. You can download this report, etc. All those things you can do. Now here, just to make you understand about the exclusion of some of the generic terms. So I have actually, yeah. So I have just enlarged this particular portion of this page. So here, if you see, like for example, this is 29. So 29 basically is one number which is, or code you can say, assigned by the software, so that it is easier for us to identify a particular similarity. So here it says categories of information. So categories of information is of course generic term. You will find it everywhere. Similarly, Indian Institutes of Management. Here you see Indian Institute of Management. Then you see Government of India. Then you see education in the field of management. So these are generic terms, and when you run a paper for similarity, it will include everything. But when you actually sit and start excluding these sources, excluding these particular things, then this similarity will be lesser, and then you will be actually understanding the actual level of similarity, or I would say if there is any plagiarism. So this is how we have to make ourselves understand. And this you can do only when you practice on Turnitin or any other software. uh, I'm not saying it is difficult, but you have to spend some times to understand this particular issue. So apart from Turnitin, there are other softwares also, uh, like Orcon, Authenticate, Drillbit, and there are some open access softwares also. But my suggestion is that you should always use a software which has a large repository. So why I'm saying large repository, or first let me make you understand what large repository is. So how a paper is checked? When we put a paper into a database for similarity check, or you can say software, so it checks that it checks the content of your paper against the content which is available in the repository of that particular software or database, and then it tells you the similarity. So larger this repository or larger the content a particular software or database has, you will have higher level of similarity. And getting higher level of similarity is in your own interest, because when you send your paper for publication, or when yes, so if you send your publications for send your paper for publication, then your paper is generally checked in some of the best softwares. And what we see today is uh, you know uh, 13 is a software where you have more number of content, or which has a large repository. So it is better to check in Turnitin. So what we experienced here at Manu was that we were checking papers, same paper, when we checked in Turnitin and Urkund, what we found that there were discrepancy in the similarity level. And the reason was because of the repository or the content these two papers had. Similarly, Drillbit says, I mean, we were experimenting with Drillbit. So here we realized that they have taken only that content which is in public domain. So public domain means which was, it's not that everything which is available in internet, on internet, is in public domain. Public domain is basically, so I think this will be discussing in the later part of my session, which is on IPR. We will discuss this public domain in detail. So also, since sirs said that there are a lot of research scholars also attending this session. So you know uh, I mean, I'm not saying that they actually fall prey to such things, but it is important that I tell them that, you see, there are a lot of things where which claim that there is you use this particular application and all your text will be converted into, or paraphrase, etc. Now I got to see this particular uh, website where it was claimed that you can bypass plagiarism check, so which is actually not possible. So just listen to this, what this guy is saying.
चलिए हम आपको बताते हैं कि प्लगरिज्म चेक को बाईपास कैसे करना है। प्लगरिज्म चेक यानी कि आपने कुछ कॉपी पेस्ट किया एक पेपर में अपनी डिसर्टेशन में पब्लिश किया और उस सॉफ्टवेयर ने पकड़ लिया और आपको फिर से मॉडिफाई करना पड़ गया, और वो मॉडिफाई करना फिर बहुत मेहनत वाला काम होता है, और हर एक अक्षर को फिर से दोबारा लिखना, इसमें बहुत मेहनत लगती है.
So I will not, show you the full video, because what this video says that, what you heard also, कि काफ़ी मेहनत लगती है, तो रिसर्च में तो मेहनत लगती ही है. तो अगर हम सोचें कोई शॉर्टकट, तो ये शॉर्टकट ऐसा नहीं है. So let me just tell you what are the punishment which are in the UGC regulation in brief. So these are some of the levels. UGC has given 4 levels. One is 0, 1, 2, 3. So where, if similarity is up to 10%, there is no problem, there is no penalty. If it is about 10% and up to 40%, then such a student shall be asked to submit a revised script within a stipulated time period not exceeding 6 months. And if you come under level 2, that is 40 to 60%, then such a student shall be debarred from submitting a revised script for a period of 1 year. And the third level is, when your plagiarism exceeds or similarity exceeds 60%. So in this case, such a student's registration for that program shall be cancelled. And if the degree has already been given, then, your degree can be put in abeyance for a period as considered or approved by the head of the institution. And then there are punishment for teachers also. So here, it is basically in research publications, and if the level is up to 10%, there's no problem. If it is 10 to 40%, then shall such faculty shall be asked to withdraw manuscript. If it is between 40 to 60%, then such staff shall be asked to withdraw manuscript, shall be denied a right to one annual increment, shall not be allowed to be a supervisor for a period of 2 years. And if it is, above 60%, then such staff shall be asked to withdraw manuscript, denied 2 consecutive annual increments, and shall not be a supervisor for a period of 3 years. So these are the kind of punishments which have been recommended in the UGC regulation of 2018. And if there are repeated plagiarism or of level 3, that is above 60%, then the institution can even terminate such staff or faculty. And then this is the regulation which actually I was talking about, self plagiarism regulation, which came recently. Apart from this, there is another document which was released by UGC a few days back, I think last week only. I have not really read that, so that is again on academic ethics. So you'll find this on UGC's website, so you should read that also. So can we say that first is that sometimes we say that our paper has not been published, so you can't punish us. But the fact is that UGC regulation says that even if you give your paper for any kind of assessment for any purpose, then also it will be considered as academic dishonesty. And just for example, if somebody applies for financial grant for attending a conference where his or her paper is accepted, and the faculty claims there is no plagiarism, so just on the basis of this particular application for financial grant, university has the right to take any action as per the guidelines of the UGC. And similarly, can I, say, for example, if I have a paper, can I go and say that this paper I got clearance from vice chancellor or pro vice chancellor, so how can you punish me? But these things do not work like it, because the definition of author clearly defines the responsibility of the creator of that particular uh, research paper, etc. So I can also not go and say, how can you punish me because my book has been purchased by Elsevier, and Elsevier is such an international publisher. So all these things actually do not work, and it is, you have to be very, very careful. And also, can this plagiarism or this regulation be applied to those publications which were published before 2018? Yes, because it is only the criminal laws which are affect. I mean, the date of effect of criminal laws is on the day when they were notified, but in civil laws it's not like that. So even your previous papers, that is why you must have seen in one of the press releases UGC said, MHRD said in fact, that all the PhDs brought out into before 2011 will be checked for plagiarism. So which means then our previous documents can also be checked. And for UGC suggests that there are two kinds of panel which every university should have. One is departmental level panel, where the chairman will be head of the department, and then there will be three members, and then one at institution level, where chairman will be either pro vice chancellor or dean or any other senior academician of that particular institution, and then one person from outside and one person who is well versed with the plagiarism softwares, etc. And okay, so this I'll skip. Okay, so now I want to tell you more details about how you can avoid plagiarism, so that we don't regret tomorrow that we didn't know this. So in this direction, it is important that we understand what citation is, what is a reference, what is bibliography. So citation, or sometimes it is called in-text citations also, is when one paper refers to another paper. Okay, and the reference is the complete detail of a paper which has been cited uh, in your paper, and they have to match also. So why these two things are important? Because through reference, as a reader, I will know that which document I have to refer to if I want to do further reading, or if I want to check whether the things which you have written are correct or not. And then there is something called bibliography. So bibliography is basically a list of books or other reading material which were read or consulted during the period of your research, may not have necessarily been referred in your paper. So that is the difference between the reference and bibliography. So just to give you an example of citation, this is citation, or you can say in-text citation, where I have used a particular document of the ministry, and it was published in 2012. So this is how I cited it, and this is the complete reference of this particular document, where I give the publisher's name, where it was published, the complete title of the publication, etc. Now similarly, in this is another document which I used from a website, and the complete reference is this, what you see on your screen at the end. Here you see a difference in this particular rendering, the previous one and this, and the reason is because this particular thing has been taken from the website, and this has been taken from a print document. So here we also write when this particular paper was accessed. And why it is important that sometimes the site which I'm looking for may not be there, which was there in maybe in 2016 or 2017. So that is why it becomes important that I give complete details of the website. And there are various formats like APA, Nature, then MLA, IEEE, etc., which we use for giving citations and a reference. And every publisher or all the universities have a set pattern or format which has to be followed in all theses and research writing. And there's a possibility that if I'm writing a paper today in APA style, when I send it for publication, then the publisher can say that we don't follow this particular style, you have to change that into some other format. So these are some of the formats, and these are some of the examples which I'm going to give you. So for example, if you want to quote something in your paper from a book, so you give the citation like this, and this is the complete reference, where, and this is APA style, and this is the complete reference, where the first name, last name is first, and the first name is just initials. I also give the year. I give title of that particular book in italics, then publisher, then publisher, etc. So these are the complete details. So similarly, if it is a book chapter which I am using, then of course if it is by more than one author, so this is the citation, and this is the complete reference. of a book chapter which was published in a edited book. And that is the reason, why I give this in. Okay, so if you see this in is written here, which means, this particular paper in this particular book which is edited by these many people, and this is the title of that book which was published by Bookwell in New Delhi. So this is how, I cite and refer a book chapter. So similarly, there are other ways of giving, journal article, then newspaper articles, and web page also. So all these things, we have to learn it properly. But the thing is, we are sometimes, don't remember that which particular format is to be, I mean, how that particular format is to be used. So that is why it is very, very important that we always use technology. And there are, in this slide you see that the left hand side panel has abstract, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, conclusions, recommendations, where UGC says that there is zero tolerance. And on the right hand side, and I feel, these are the core areas. So, and on the right hand side, these are the things which I feel are non-core areas. So the core areas, probably you should focus on core areas, and the right hand side things which you see, these things you can assign to technology to do, so that you save your time, and you put that time in these core areas. So what are those? One is, table of content and pagination, track changes mode, footnote, endnote, figures, tables, questionnaires. When you develop questionnaires, how you develop. Then, of course, giving references and bibliography. So, you should always make sure that you don't waste time on doing these things manually, because there are applications in MS Office Word and also in various reference organizers which you can always use, so that you are able to organize your references or documents in a systematic manner. And anytime, you want to refer to such documents, you can do it very easily uh, without searching on in your computer. So these are some of the, okay, so let me just see if I can okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll go to I'll tell you a few things, and then, I would want to show how you can do it on practically. I want to demonstrate that. So one is, of course, literal copying, then substantial copying, then paraphrasing, and text recycling. So what is text recycling? Recycling is when you want to make two papers out of one paper. So that is called text recycling. So I'll not go into the detail of this with regard to the ethical aspect, because there are ethical aspects related to authorship, conflict of interest, then research fraud, simultaneous submission, etc. So these are all unethical things, and you can, read about all these things in various documents. One is promoting integrity in scholarly research and its publication. This is by COPE, that is Committee on Publication Ethics. Then Wiley also is a document. So you will find a lot of documents, where you understand about these ethical guidelines. And then, of course, this particular thing. So what I'll do is I would want to just go and just go to internet and see if I can show you what my screen is available to all of you. There, you can see my screen, sir.
Yes, we can
All
see.
right.
Document you are sharing a doc.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll just enlarge it for. Okay. So one way of giving, citation is that you, of course, give manually, and the other is that, you use references of this particular tab, references. And if you use these references, then you will find that here there is a button for insert citation. So this I cannot really enlarge, so you'll have to really focus where my cursor is. So if you say insert citation, and then you can select type of source. So if it is a book, you select book. If it is General article, you select general article. So for example, it is book, and here the author is, for example, Akhtar Parvez, and the title is Librarianship, and this book is published in New Delhi by Sage in 2012. And if I say OK here, then you see here citation. But this particular citation is in different style. So here, styles are also given. So here, this style is MLA. So if I change it to, APA, then you see that this style of citation here has changed. So similarly, I can go on and give citations for more documents, like maybe website or a YouTube video, etc. And all these things, various types of documents are given here, in this particular thing. Report, website, document from website, electronic source, sound recording, performance, film, interview, etc. So all these things, you can always choose and give here. So how you generate references? You go towards the end of documents. Say for example, here you go and you go to bibliography, and when you go to bibliography, you just say yes here, and here you get the complete bibliography of the citation that I just gave in this document. Apart from this, there are a lot of other things also which I said, that is track change mode, etc. So you should use that also, so that your I mean, if it probably will be easier for you to assess the thesis of students. Sometimes what happens that you must be experiencing that you tell a student 100 things, but out of those only 100 things, he or she is able to make only or address only 50 or 60 of them. So if you write everything here using the track change mode, here is the review button. So if you switch on this track change mode, so whatever you write, it will be reflected. So whatever you delete, it will be reflected, and the same thing you can send to students. So it's easier for the student to have a clear understanding of what you want. Similarly, you can also put a comment here. You can always say, maybe use some other source. So this also, comment also you can make in the document. So all these things, if you do on this, it will be good. And the other thing is that you use Mendeley for it. And I always say that instead of giving these things in Word document manually, you should use sorry, instead of giving all these things in this Word document manually. When I say manually, I mean, you input things in that worksheet which I just showed. So if you use mainly Professor Najmul Hasan, I think, also uses it, and he finds it very easy to use. So I suggest that you also get conversant with this particular application. And since there is no time, I cannot really go and explain to you. But what I am, suggesting to you is that there is one video which is I think, yes. So there's a one video, which is available on my website on Mendeley. So you should see this particular Mendeley. So what this Mendeley does is, one good thing about Mendeley is that it organizes your documents. It organizes your own publications also. Say if I have written, say 40 articles or say 10 books and other things, so I can always put it in Mendeley. There is a folder called My Publications. So you should use that particular folder to put your publications. And why I'm saying this, because if you want to convert this into any style, you can do it and add this into your CV also. So it actually avoids a lot of duplication of efforts on your part. Apart from this, from directly from Mendeley, what you can do is, say for example, if you have a PDF of a particular article. So if I do it manually in MS Office Word, so what I have to do is basically I have to input all those things. But in Mendeley, see, you can simply drag that particular PDF to Mendeley dashboard, and it captures all the details, the bibliographic details. like who's the author, title, publisher, abstract, everything, it adds up. But and you save a lot of time in writing all those things manually. But having said that, you must always verify whether the details which it has captured those details correctly or not. So that you have to ensure. And then sometimes what happens that we keep I mean, I'll tell you my experience how I do. When I read some article, if I'm working on a particular topic, so I simply put that in Mendeley. And what I do is generally I read abstract, and on the basis of abstract I keep collecting these articles and putting those articles in Mendeley. So whenever I get time, I start opening those documents from my Mendeley dashboard and start seeing those documents. In fact, also, videos, some of the videos which I see, I put those videos here, and then at a later stage I see them whenever I get time. So this is how, after this, I select which one to be used in my research papers, and it becomes very easy for me to organize my references. So let me just I'll take another 5 minutes, and then we'll have questions answered. So this is the Mendeley dashboard of mine, where I have put all my papers. So I know you will not be able to see it very clearly. So this is my publications. So here all my publications I have captured, and okay, and I can always filter these publications. So for example, I want to filter it by authors, I can do that. If I have given some tags, I can filter it by tags also. So let me just show you how I can filter it by tags. So I just want to see what which are the books I have edited. So I'll just go here and see, okay, these are the books I have edited. Simply, I can go to this particular thing, I can go and see journal articles, then book chapters I can see here. So I mean, it becomes very easy. And what I do here, I have given various named various folders, like citation analysis, citation standard. So whenever I work on a particular topic, I create folders and start collecting all my documents or research papers or videos in that particular uh, folder. Now, I will also show you, I was working on, this particular, okay, I think there is, okay. Anyway, so, this, I mean, if I use this particular application, life becomes very easy. And why we should write ethically, of course, because that is the only way, we must write. And that also, ensures scientific progress, and possibly that is the only way, we should and we can write, because, if a reputation is damaged as a research scholar, probably that is not good for us. So we should also ensure that, we write ethically. So I think with these words, let me just thank you, and of course, Professor Najmul Hassan, for giving me this opportunity. And I'll be happy to take up any questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being with us and talking on something very important for all. It is essential that these ethical practices are adhered to. So, Dr. Akhtar Parvez has very comprehensively and told all the issues which can come, and defined what is plagiarism, what is self uh, plagiarism, self citation, and various things. And I request the participants to ask questions. Either they can unmute themselves and ask, or you can put up the comments and questions in the chat window. And Dr. Akhtar Parvez, you'll be able to see the chat window.
Okay.
So if there are any, yeah, so there are some comments here. Dr. Nessie says, thank you, sir. Very good presentation. Yeah. See, if there are any questions, I'm sure there'll be questions, because this plagiarism thing is very important, and there is something which we often miss out on. Very often you are not trying to copy somebody else's work, but you want to you are referring to their work, and there is a way you do it. That's what the whole conversation is about. So how do you use their results, and you say that these are the results others got, and this is what we have got. This was the method the others used, and right. So even if you are taking a set of words or from their work, there are limitations. How many words you can cut and paste, and how do you cite it? How do you put them in inverted commas? How do you, right? So these are very important things, and I'm sure you'll have issues. So please feel free to ask Dr. Akhtar Parvez. He's an expert at it, and he has helped many researchers to not get into trouble. You know, these days it has become a big issue of plagiarism. There are a lot of very efficient ways to check whether you are replicating passages, paragraphs, or sections of somebody else's text or not. Earlier it was not so, but now it has become it's become very easy. So without realizing, don't copy paste and get into trouble, right? So if let's please, there is a question. Could you comment on UGC regulations clause 7 once again from
Yeah,
Rahman?
yeah,
Yes.
sure, sir. This clause 7 of the UGC regulation says that there will not be any plagiarism, or similarity in things like, recommendations, conclusion, abstracts, etc. But at the same time, there are certain exclusions, and exclusions. One exclusion is that all common knowledge shall not be treated as plagiarism. Apart from that, the 14 consecutive words. So I think, what does it mean is basically is that if there is anything up to 14 correct words, there is no problem. But if it is beyond 14 words, then there's a problem. But having said that, if you are checking it in Turnitin in this particular document, then you have to understand that these two things are different. When you give a filter in Turnitin, that it should ignore these 14 things, that does not mean that it will ignore the consecutive 14 words. So that is a different thing, which the interpretation of these 14 things, 14 words in Turnitin is different, and in UGC's regulation it is different. So that thing that is one we have to understand. And the other is that all the quoted works, whatever you cite, whatever you give proper reference, those are also excluded. Apart from that, all, of course, as I said, common knowledge or information. And then symbols, equations which you use in various papers, all those things are excluded. So I think my suggestion is that you should go through the UGC regulation once and read it, so that you have further clarity on notes, this clause 7 of the UGC. And you may have to read it multiple times, because I knew these things quite well, still it took me some time to understand the UGC regulation. There are a lot of things where I thought I was not very I had some other opinion about a particular thing, which I discussed it with some of the peoples, and then I got the clarity, or they got the clarity. So I think it is important that we read this UGC regulation a couple of times for better understanding.
Ms. Somya Ranjan Bhatt asks, sir, how does plagiarism software work? Is it brute force checking?
It is?
is it brute force checking? How does the plagiarism software work? Is it brute force checking?
How plagiarism softwares work. So what happens that if I upload a document in any software, maybe Turnitin or Urkund, etc. So my document will be checked against the content which is available in these databases or softwares, and then it will match my paper's content with the content which is already available with them, and then it will detect the URLs or the website from where I have taken that particular content, and then it will give me similarity. So this is how the softwares work. And then after all, they are machines. They cannot understand what is plagiarism, what is not plagiarism. It is you who will have to actually have a clarity on exclusions. So on the basis of that exclusion clarity, you can remove some of the things. And when you are putting a paper in softwares like Turnitin or Urkund, there is a possibility that you will get different percentage. And when you get different percentage, obviously why you get different percentage, I told you, because of the uh, content difference in content. One database have more content and the other may have less content. So that is why that there is discrepancy in the percentage. Similarly, when you say, for example, there is a paper which you want to check, and when you upload, you get URLs. So when you go to those websites, uh, there's a possibility that you may not get that particular paper. Sometimes, if it is a student paper, so you will have to make a request to the author to send the paper, or to that university. So after that request is sent, they may or may not send the paper to you. But that does not mean that because they have not sent, it is not a similarity or a plagiarism. That is very clearly given in the text which is highlighted when we run our when we run our paper in particular software. So this is how it works. And and that is why it becomes more important for all the faculty members, especially, to have a complete clarity on exclusion. What I see is that uh, uh, when we give uh, report to students, so what the students does, that is student uh, tells all the exclusion to the faculty, and the faculty simply forwards that email to us. A student is not the guy who will actually decide what exclusion should be there. The faculty must certify. And the another thing which I want also to tell you, that there are some very smart students, and I have seen that in my previous organization, and I have been seeing here also. So what they do is, because in Turnitin there is a filter called double quote. So if you uh, uh, do make that filter enable in Turnitin, so whatever is in double quotes, it will not be recognized as similarity or plagiarism. So what some students do is that they use double quotes in the beginning of the dissertation or thesis, and at the end of the thesis. So what happens? You find that there is no, and they also actually put those quotes in white color font. So if it is white color, of course I will not be able to see it. So what we generally do is that first thing which we do, whenever we read any dissertation, we put those everything in black color, so that we know that if there is any additional quotes or unnecessary quotes. Apart from that, there is one option in Turnitin, not option, it actually warns us. Turnitin tells us that there are some unusual things in the paper which you must check. Like, for example, there are too many citations, there are too many references, all those things it tells us. So that is another way by which we can see that what is the problem with a particular paper. So I think this is the mechanism of any software which we use. Yes, I think I could answer your question.
Yes. Habib Rahman also thanks you for having answered his previous question. And now there is a question by Asif Padar. He says, Sir, if we publish a paper and we write that published paper in our thesis and final stage, will it show as plagiarism and what will be the solution?
Okay. So I think one is that first thing is that a lot of people do not agree with me, but I always say that we should not make students' thesis part of Shodh Ganga immediately after it is awarded. Okay, I feel that we should wait for at least 6 months before these theses are uploaded on Shodh Ganga's website of InflipNet, so that students are able to publish their papers. But having said that, students should also make sure that they publish paper fast, so that there is no problem of similarity. But yes, if your thesis is uploaded on Shodh Ganga, and if you write research paper, obviously it'll show some similarity, a lot of similarity it will show. At the same time, I feel probably Professor Najmul Hassan will be a better person to tell you. But I think it's a good practice to have the research paper. I mean, you should not just copy what we have written in our thesis. The paper should be little different from, of course, numbers etc. will be same, but maybe the writing style etc. could be different, so that there is no such issue. Maybe Professor Najmul Hassan should comment on this particular thing. But my suggestion is that we should not immediately put the thesis on Shodh Ganga's website immediately upon its when it is awarded.
Yes, I agree with you. Actually, Asif, when you write the material for a paper and the way you express it in a thesis, they are two different styles. So though the content, the matter could be the same, but your writing style, the way of presentation is different. You can't just cut and paste your article in this and comprise, some students do that. They have published 2 or 3 articles and chapter 1 becomes first article, chapter 2 second. It's not done. The way you write an article, the style is different, and the way you express it in a thesis you can be more elaborate, and you can make the discussions and the methodology and techniques which you have used in a more complete way, while in a article you don't do that. So and then so then your plagiarism issues will be reduced tremendously, and you would have quoted, you would have cited that this has been published in such and such a thing.
So I think, sir, there is one more question in the
Yes.
chat box, which says, in physics subject, how to overcome from the self-plagiarism, because in physics, some experimental data, what we observed, we have to put in the thesis, and same experiment has to be communicated to international journals. I think, here is what it becomes important for us to understand the exclusions. Okay, so I think that is the key. If we understand the exclusion, then probably we can do a lot of such things. Wherever for example, if there are two, of course, data etc. will be same, but as I said, that Professor Najmul Hassan also said maybe writing style could be different. So all those things, and once your paper is ready for publication, you should turn it in, so that you see where are the problems and you are able to fix it. Then there is another question, is if paper is published and then after some time thesis is submitted, it will definitely show plagiarism. Yes, I think this question has already been answered.
Yeah, this is what we were saying,
Yes, yes.
that the article is submitted, but the way you write it, present it in the article, and the way you should present it in your thesis, they are different. Right? So I think that should not create a problem. So the way you express it, the way you present the data in article or in thesis, you can have the same results expressed. And in your thesis, you would mention that this has been published and such. You'll give a citation, for that.
Right, sir. So any other question, if anybody has, please feel free to ask me.
There is a question from Dr. Surya Kant.
Yes.
Sir, while submitting article for plagiarism, check whether to exclude title part with author details and reference part, or these to be included.
No, I think you put the complete paper or dissertation or thesis, whatever you publish, and then the exclusions given in UTC regulation allows you to remove those things. So those things could be removed manually. But unfortunately, what we see in some of the institutions, and I'm sorry to say that even some of the uh, uh, prestigious institutions, what they do is that they check your paper for similarity, and there is no scope given to faculty or students for exclusion. That is very strange. They say, whatever library has reported, that is the final thing. So I think that because I get a lot of queries from different people from different institutions, uh, uh, that the library has given us a report, and the examination branch says that you'll have to reduce similarity in that. So how can you reduce the similarity? For example, if it is literature review, where you have given proper citation, etc., you cannot just do away with the literature survey, literature review. So hence it is important that every institution has a policy where a certificate is obtained from the concerned person. uh, of course, the in case of thesis and dissertation, from the supervisor, that these are the exclusions, and how he or she will be able to certify this. Unless and until he has the complete knowledge about exclusion, he will not be give such certificate. So it is important that that exclusion is very, very important. That is why UGC regulation has very clearly said the various exclusions that should be considered while assessing any report or thesis.
Yeah, just one more word. Again, Ausif Padar is asking about this plagiarism check in mathematics. Ausif, you are right that there are certain issues with mathematics. Mathematics uses one specific jargon. When you have to define something or state something, it has to be done specifically. For example, there exists an element such that this, right? So those things will keep coming, and it can be shown as plagiarism check if you are blindly checking for plagiarism. But there are various forums which I will talk to you later. We are getting it extended too long, where plagiarism check for mathematical documents, it is done in a more technical way. And there are various discussions on the internet too, forums where they are discussing this issue, because sometimes the first chapter in mathematics which we have is the introduction, where you are setting the stage, you are defining, you are using the stating all the definitions which you would be using later for your work, which you stated in your first introduction. And it is necessary. You can't change the words. You can't rewrite in another way. You can't define a topological space in some other way, right? So there are ways how aspects in mathematics plagiarism check is done, which we'll discuss separately.
And sir, these things will be considered as generic words, what you said.
Yes, yeah. So there is a specific way which happens with many math recitations. So then you have to check it in a different way, and sometimes it shows up 60%, and then when you check it in the right way with generic terms and words, then it comes down to 10, 15, which is within permissible limits. Right, sir? Right. Dr. Parvez, am I right?
Yeah, of course, sir, of course.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll stop now, give them a break, and Dr. Parvez will be with us in the afternoon. And he'll be speaking to us on intellectual property rights in the afternoon session. So thank you, sir.
My pleasure, sir. Always my pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Essential. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
We'll reassemble at 11:45. Thank you.